Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John never wants to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is February 6, 2025. This is the A Block, which means we've come on right after the top of the hour, which is the news and all that kind of stuff. The guy who everyone wants to hear. Nobody cares about what I say. The guy who everybody wants to hear is Mr. John Combest. Good morning, John. How you doing?
Good morning. I thought you were going to say Benjamin Netanyahu.
No, not Benjamin Netanyahu. Oh, we'll talk about that later on. It's sort of interesting. I took interesting about how people either love or hate Trump's idea, which is sort of funny. Okay, that is John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. Put a John in front of it, put a .com on the end. You have johncombest.com. He does this every single day for the past 23 years, puts together an extensive list of all the stuff that you should know about in the state of Missouri, all the important factors that are going on, and he's got a bunch of links, no fancy videos, no flash things or anything like that, no crazy dancing chipmunks or anything like that. It's just down and dirty political stuff that you should know about. We bring this guy in. What's your name again, sir?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And how does he do this? What do you do again now?
We're on our way to the number one.
I got it. And what do we start with?
In third place.
Some rare bipartisan agreement in the Missouri Capitol. And the subject is, Brad, something that we haven't talked about a whole lot on the show, but I know you have opinions on this. Students using cell phones in school during instructional hours, not before school, not after school, but in the classroom during the day while the teacher's trying to teach. When I say there's bipartisan agreement about this, the St. Louis Public Radio and the Missouri Independent both have stories up today about this bipartisan effort. And there's a woman in Columbia named Kathy Steinoff. She used to be a teacher. Up until 2 years ago, she was a teacher. She was super involved in the NEA and all that stuff, pretty traditional NEA-type Democrat. But she says she has seen in the classroom her students virtually addicted to their cell phones. They bring them to school, they scroll, the teacher tries to confiscate it. It's a whole dang thing. So Kathy Steinoff and a couple Republicans have some separate bills, but moving in the same direction, which would require, Brad, and here's the punchline, it would require the state of Missouri, it would require school districts throughout the state of Missouri to come up with a plan, to come up with a policy about cell phone use. Two of the three bills would require every district to come up with a policy by the 26 and 27 school year. So it gives them 2 years. Now, one of the Republicans, a woman named Ann Kelly, is quoted in the St. Louis Public Radio piece, and she says, we want to go to great lengths to make sure that the school districts enforce this, that this is not a state mandate. So school districts get to decide what they consider instructional time, what they don't consider instructional time, and every district in some of these other proposals also needs to make a very clear exceptions policy. So, of course, if a kid is in danger, if a kid is in trouble, if a kid needs to change its pickup procedures, you can think of a million exceptions here, Brad. But I guess the main idea is it looks like Republicans and Democrats are working together to say, hey, school districts, you need to come up with some kind of a plan to limit kids using their phone during classroom instruction time. Brad, I know you have an opinion on this.
John, you don't want to know my opinion, but you don't want because you'll think
yeah, I do want to know. I do want to know your opinion.
Okay, once again, I'm a guy I'm the disruptive mind kind of guy. I'm an out-of-the-box thinker. Here's my plan, which would work perfectly, and everybody would be happy with this. Students would be required to have, each student would be required to have a cell phone in classroom. And matter of fact, if the student didn't have one, the school would provide a cell phone, okay?
Like an Obama phone, maybe. Okay, I'm following. Go ahead.
Okay. Then they would put a camera in the classroom, and they would give a good wireless mic, a good body pack mic to the teacher, and each student, the teacher would stream her instruction over the internet, and each of the students would be required to pull up their phone and go to the school app, which would have all the teachers they have, and they would click on that particular class, touch that particular class, whatever, and they would sit there and watch the stream of the teacher in front of the classroom teaching the class. Therefore, the kids couldn't be scrolling on their phones because they would be required to watch the teacher who was streaming the instruction live on their phone, and they would hear every single word. And every couple of minutes or so, there would be a little pop-up thing that would show up on the kid's phone, say, okay, what did the teacher just say? Let's have a recap, blah, 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 blah. And it would be like a pop quiz. And then the teacher would resume teaching again. And that's the way they would be all the classes. So that the students would be required to put that phone right in front of their face, glue it to their eyeballs, and the teacher would have their rapt attention. What do you think, John?
Did you come up with that on your own?
I did.
Wow, that is brilliant, Brad. Now, first of all, let's face it. No teachers union wants to have any oversight of teachers, right?
Well, there's not oversight. They're just on the, they're out there. They're broadcast. And see, the interesting thing was not only that, but if the kids were sick, if they were home, there'd be no excuse for them not to miss class because they could say, okay, it would be almost like, you've never seen Romper Room before. It would almost be like Miss Lois. She, before she started the class, well, I see Jimmy and little Bridget and Amanda are not in class today. Hey, are you there right now? And they would, and then she would be able to, they'd be able to, interact. Yes, Mrs. Smith. Okay, fine. The rest of you students, let's put some positive thought to our 3 students who are at home sick today, but they're watching the class, so let's continue with class. Come on, John, you got to admit, it's a great idea.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I do. I like the idea. I mean, here's the thing. If I'm a school district and I really want to ban cell phones from being used during quote unquote instructional time, I don't want to get the heat about it. So I would love it if the state passed a law saying you cannot use cell phones during instructional time. And then as a school district administrator or an educrat, I could say, see, don't have a choice. Jefferson City is pushing us on. Don't send. In your case, Brad, I would like to point out, I know you love the name Amanda, but there's not a single kid in an elementary school in the St. Louis area named Jimmy or Bridget or Amanda anymore. It's Colton and Mackenzie and Chloe, okay? So the point is, Brad, the school districts would love it if the state forced something down their throats because then they could just blame the state for it.
Well, John, you want my alternate plan for this?
I do want your alternate plan.
All the students would be required to buy their cell phones from the same company that supplied the pagers to the
Netanyahu.
Right,
that's great.
to the Netanyahu secret company. And the teacher would start off the class by saying, okay, if you're not paying attention, I got this little keyboard here, and there's a key marked with each of your cell phones. And we want, and you boys, make sure and put that phone in your pocket, because if it's not in your pocket, guess what? I'm going to hit this button, and it's going to explode. Now, do you want to sit there and watch your phones, or do you want to listen to me teach? Because if you don't listen to what I'm teaching, you don't put that cell phone away, there's this keyboard. Oh, little Jimmy in the front row. Here's your, I can touch this right now and blow your phone up in your hand. What do you want to do? What do you learn? You want to come to this class and leave this class with all your body parts? Or do you want to leave this class minus a hand and 5 fingers? You tell me which one you want. See, that's the other alternative.
See, Brad, you've inadvertently made your first campaign pitch for the 2026 Francis Howell School Board election.
And by the way, because I went into their website, to find out.
And they is who?
The Francis Howell. Hold on, I don't even know.
They're called Francis Howell Families.
Okay, I'm now on their email list, and I got my email this morning here. What happened to it? And I'm sorry, but help support strong schools, smart spending, and bright futures. And they have a picture of, and once again, I'm not trying to be a jerk. There's this picture of Randy Cook and Ashley Sturm, and they're smiling in front of one of the schools, and the whole pitch is like, hey, we're excited to announce that our always popular yard signs. They lost me at yard signs, John. They lost me at yard signs. Always popular yard signs. Brad, county executive, I think I'm going to run in county executive in 2026, really screw up the works. And I'm going to campaign on the fact that yard signs will be illegal for candidates. Yard signs will be illegal for candidates. If you're running in an election, any kind of a proposition or something like that, if there's a yard sign in your front yard, you get a lien against your property, and it's a $10,000 fine, and we don't release the lien until you pay $10,000 to the county. How about that, John?
I love it, Brett. First of all, you'd get a ton of money from the Missouri Association of Realtors,
Yes.
because that would help expand their monopoly in the yard sign market.
Right. They'd be the only ones to be able to put yard signs. Okay. Is my weirdness too weird for you this morning, John?
Absolutely not, Brad. We love it. Hey, I have a great brand promotion story at the end of this block real quick, and I'll mention that after we get through the top 3.
And here comes...
Up a notch to number 2.
ASA, remember how I told you they arrested a bunch of us at El Maguey's a while back, Brad? Remember that?
Yes, that was just last week.
Yes, it happened the Friday before last. I guess it was the Thursday. Brad, it turns out that there's a brand new scheme. Now, last week we covered that whole scheme about El Maguey, and, there's going to be a hearing for those folks in December, but they're still here legally. And then in Kansas City, we talked about the U-Visa scam of fake robberies. But there's a brand new approach, and it was perfected, well, almost perfected, by a gentleman in Springfield. And the story is brought to us by the Springfield News Leader, a gentleman named Gabriel Ramsey of Springfield. I looked up his mugshot, Brad. He's 51. He looks like he's about 70. And it says he's listed at 5'6", 182, which sounds like, from what I hear, a lot of women on dating apps clock in at about 5'6", 182. But, Brad, this gentleman, Gabriel Ramsey, he had a brand new plan to discourage ICE agents from doing their job. He was going to email them and tell them they're the enemy and they need to be eliminated. And in addition to emails, he was going to call, and he was going to call their offices and tell them, hey, probably don't want to go outside the office because I just might be out there. By the way, he used his real name, Brad. I think that's where he screwed up. I think he probably should have used some sort of pseudonym or something. But the authorities raided his place, and it turns out that in conversations they had with him, he says, look, yes, I went a little overboard, but do you know that we're currently under an authoritarian regime? And Donald Trump's America is like, quote, Nazi Germany. So, Brad, I don't know. I feel like Gabriel is pretty justified here. I mean, under Donald Trump, it's like we're in Nazi Germany. Wouldn't you want the Jews to stand up against Nazi Germany in the 30s and 40s, Brad?
John, here's where you're missing it, because let's take number 2 and let's refer it back to number 3. The school districts need to hire this guy, and he would come into each of the classes every morning and say, okay, this is your teacher. If you don't put your cell phones down, I know where you all live. And
exactly right.
And matter of fact, if you don't listen to this teacher teach, you know what? Bad things might happen when you leave the school building this afternoon. So you got your choice. You can sit here and listen to the teacher, or you can play around with your cell phones, and you may be responsible for the consequences that just may happen to you. Do I make myself clear? And he'd walk out. Yes, we will obey, sir. See see, once again, instead of throwing him in jail, put him in a school district, put him into schools, let him do that, right? Come on. Am I fixing problems or what?
You've fixed several problems just in A Block here, Brad. Emily Manley, who is a reporter for Fox 2, she just announced that she's going to go work for DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. I think we should bump her out and put you in that slot.
Oh, man.
I mean, you're solving all these issues with the American education system.
I am. And if you want an interesting thing, there's a guy I follow on Facebook who's a principal. It's pretty interesting. And if you want me to talk about that, we'll talk about it later. But we have to get to this one right here.
The number 1.
A whole bunch of smiling, happy people holding hands. Just kidding. A bunch of angry people at the Missouri Capitol yesterday. Nearly 100, Brad. Yeah, usually you would think all the angry people are in the state legislature. They're like, wow, we're away from our families and we don't get paid hardly any money. This place sucks. But actually, they were protesters at the Capitol. Nearly 100 gathered at the Missouri Capitol because they're fighting against Elon Musk and Donald Trump. This story is brought to us. I linked to 2 stories today. One is from KRCG, which is in Jefferson City, of course, the TV station there. And also the Post-Dispatch covered this. There's a young man there called Ezra Bitterman, which, by the way, is the best name for a young journalist anyway. Like, what name encapsulates what every journalist is other than bitter man? It would be like a Columbia attorney in Brad's days being named Richard Head. So Mr. Bitterman covers this, and he points out my favorite part. He talks to a woman. There's some old bat there that's really mad. She's got a sign that says, "Why does Elon Musk have my social security number?" And then when cameras are there, Brad, she takes out her cell phone and she calls Eric Schmidt's office to give him a piece of her mind. Now, according to the story, either the line was busy or she got voicemail, of course, because it's 2025. And so this old bat wasn't able to actually talk to Eric Schmidt. And I have a link up to this story today, Brad. I also, helpfully, for readers, occasionally I'll go back and I'll link to a search tag so that people can find all stories in a category. And one of my search tags that I created on my website long ago was called Old People Nagging Congressional Staffers. Like old people who think that if they send a letter to their legislator, it's going to be really important. So anyway, this old bat is in the category of old people nagging congressional staffers. And it's a really feel-good piece, Brad. There's a nice woman in this picture who's holding her. She has a prefab sign that says no one elected Elon Musk. And she's posing for the cameras, but she has it upside down. So, well, I don't know. Maybe they're under the influence of some substances.
Oh, no.
They're definitely under the influence of Trump derangement syndrome, though, Brad.
Think about what you just said, John. You're walking into my marketing 101 because of the fact.
Which is to hold the sign? I know. It was like she heard your story, your monthly story about a bus sign. Brad, speaking of your monthly stories.
My monthly stories.
I would like to point out that today I did something I almost never do. And I mean almost never do. Today I linked to a Facebook page on my website. You have maintained the Westplex Talk Facebook page for nearly 2 weeks now, I think, Brad. And so today I put a link up. If people want to follow Westplex Talk on Facebook, go to my website and you can click follow. I made a note, Brad, that it is created and updated by you, because you're the one that does all this work. So I linked to that today, Brad. Hopefully, folks that maybe are interested in the station or the show might want to follow along.
John, you forgot one thing, and I appreciate that because I have been. As a matter of fact, I sent a couple posts out this morning as we went on the air. It's just before 7:00. You said his name was Ezra Bitterman. Was that what's the name you said?
Yeah, Ezra Bitterman from the Post Dispatch. Yeah.
Do you know there's my favorite reporter down at Jefferson City? Did you ever heard of this guy by the name? His last name is Janus. His first name.
What is his name?
His last name is Janus. Janus.
It's Hugh. He's fantastic.
Hugh.
Now, I have two friends named Hugh. My other buddy, his last name is Rection. And his middle initial is Greg.
Okay, I'm sorry. We need some help here. Can we get some help from Rodney?
I just want to say, can we all get along? Can we get along?
Okay.
That's actually a quote from Mark Cox after he imaginarily insulted you the other day, Brad. That voice is not Rodney King, it's Mark Cox.
I texted him yesterday. See,
I bet he responded right away because he gives a what.
He did, because of the fact he was complaining about the fact that this is actually sort of a funny story, and I feel sorry for him. I'm not making fun of him. He got nailed by the quick pass scam. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Okay, this is a scam and it's pretty interesting. I've read about this in a couple places, and I got the text as well, too. You get a text saying, this is the Department of Transportation, and you recently went through one of our toll roads, and you didn't pay the toll, and click here to...
Hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt, Brad. There's no way Mark Cox fell for that.
He told the story yesterday how he did it. He fell for the thing.
You're joking me. Why would he think that something like that is real? Like, how old is he?
I don't know. I heard him tell the story. I was going to Schnucks to get my morning donut, and he started this story. I'm thinking, I'm going to listen to this because I've gotten that same stupid text. The text for you don't know it's if you know what's going on. A lot of the states, in like Oklahoma's done this, and a lot of states have done it. If they have toll roads, in the old days they have toll booths. Okay, now they have the scanners, and for a while you had to buy a pass, and you actually put like a barcode on your windshield or your rear glass, or stuff like that. Now they have the ALPs, the automatic license plate plate readers, okay? So when you go through, there's nobody at the toll stations anymore. They just read your license plate, and then they essentially send you a bill in the mail or wherever you registered thing. Okay, so in other words, you may have gone through a toll road and not paid the toll, and you didn't realize it. So he admitted that he got one of these emails and that he paid online. He went to the link, paid online, and then he went, oh crap, I think I just got scammed. So the story he told was he called his bank immediately, got it to the fraud department at his bank, and the fraud department said, okay, let's take a look at it. And immediately, he says from the time he clicked the button to the time he talked to the fraud department, he says, well, I think he says his exact words were 3 minutes, okay? So he got to the fraud guy, and sure enough, they'd already gone into his account, and they were trying to buy a gift card or something like that. And they cut it out, okay? They shut it down. But here's the interesting thing. He said, the only problem I have is going to take me 7 to 10 days to get a new debit card. And I texted him, hey, Mark, I don't know who you bank with, but my bank, if you go to certain locations, how do I know this? Because I've lost my debit card once or twice. I walk in the bank and I say, can I get a new debit card? And they knock one out for me right then. They got this magic machine, sits in the corner, and it prints out a new debit card, punches the numbers into the card, puts my name in the whole bit, and I walk out of there 5 minutes later with a brand new debit card. So, and he says, they have that at my banks, but not at my branch. And then I texted him, and this is interesting. I texted him this, and this I got no response from. Here, let me to make sure I don't get in trouble by misquoting myself. Let me find the text. The text is.
I do think that this is a great advertisement for your bank, Brad Boatman's bank.
Yeah, and I said. And this is what he said. He says, I won't say what, saying, Mom can't do that. It's just a matter of taking the time to drive over to the right branch. And then I said, BTW, can I be a guest in your morning show sometime? No response. Because I'm trying to get on there to promote the Westplex Chamber of Commerce. But no response. And by the way, do you know this? He moved. He moved to the Westplex.
Oh, you mean like personally, or his station did?
No. He personally, he lived out in Wildwood for a long time, and he moved.
You talked about that on the air because he had talked about Sam Page.
Right, and he essentially said, when I asked him one day, and I said, why did you move? And his response was, the area is too purple. That's what he said. So. I guess they're infiltrating Wildwood as well too. Is Wildwood Democrat? Is Wildwood? I thought Wildwood was Republican.
Wildwood is glorious. It's very Republican, and I don't know.
That's what I thought.
mean, yeah.
But apparently, from what he's saying, there's some Dems that they're actually. I thought when you moved into Wildwood, you had to actually, get an occupancy permit, and you actually had to show how you voted for the last 10 years before they'd let you in.
That's only if you're a man. If you're a woman, you have to get a little lip filler and a really great pair of Lululemon.
And you can't wear comfy shoes, right?
Absolutely not, Brad. Hey, Brad, for once we're over because of me.
Yes, and it's shame on you. Okay, we have to take a break.